I need to spend some more time on Twitch. I don't know if you're a Twitcher. No, let's get to scheduled. Here we go. Why is my Facebook not working? All right, we're going to cancel Facebook today. Let's do that. Hey, everybody, we are live. We are live. We're going to let this thing load up here for a minute. Good morning, Madeline. How you doing?
Good morning. I'm feeling good. How are you, Adam?
I'm doing all right. We were talking offline that I feel like, there's two ways about it. One, if it's cloudy and rainy where you are, you're in Southern California, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in sunny, kind of really nice spring day here in New York City, which is our Long Island, right, not too far from New York City. You're stuck inside one way or another, but when it's nice out, really taking advantage of the fresh air and the sunshine and just trying to take a few moments and separate yourself from all the nonsense that's happening in the world right now, and just try to have some semblance of normalcy. Let's make sure we're loading up on the old LinkedIn machine here. It was a little glitchy last week. I think because so many people are doing the old LinkedIn live. Here we go. Yeah, we're live. Nope. Yep. We are live. Let's see who's joining us today. We are loading up here. There we go. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to the podcast live. I think we're in April. Did we pass March?
Yes, we're in April. Safely.
We've landed in April, and I truly believe that this is hopefully the start of the end of all of this, and we're going to come out on the other side. But what we are seeing is a tremendous amount of upheaval in the economy. Millions are losing their jobs across every different sector. People are being furloughed. People are just in a terrible place right now, and it's so tough because there aren't other jobs out there. There are other jobs, though, in industries where people may not have worked before. And maybe they're a little bit, I don't know, saying, hey, I don't know if I want to do that. But listen, when rubber hits the road and you need to put food on your plate and make money. So the first thing I want to talk about is mindset, putting yourself in the right mindset right now. And what's some of the advice that you're giving your candidates, your clients, and people that you connect with around the idea of mindset? What's the best mindset to be in right now?
Yeah. So the mindset that keeps coming at me is, Madeline, why should I even approach jobs? Why should I even pursue anything if no one's hiring? Like, why would I even put energy into that? And that is the worst mindset you can possibly have. The good news is that so many people are having that mindset. So you taking the mindset of, okay, people are applying to jobs at like record highs right now. Like I'm sure you've seen like any job that maybe had gotten 200 applications before is now getting 400. You go, okay, so the good news is that everyone usually has the same approach. And so you think, all right, things are getting a bit more competitive. I'm going to step it up. I'm going to find a back door to get into that company. I'm going to maybe create a quick little profile or some sort of a project that will help me stand out. I'm going to think of different ways that I can be a more attractive candidate. And so just kind of taking it as like game on and knowing that the vast majority of people will not have that mentality.
100%, right? It's going on the offense instead of the defense. And I think just generally speaking, so many people could, really crawl into a hole and use this as an excuse, right? But how do you turn that positive? How do you turn that negative into a positive? And also listen, like if you need to be making money and putting food on the table, you need to just be a little bit more humble and say, you know what, maybe it's temporary right now, but I'm going to take a step backwards, or I'm going to take a side step or a pivot and try something different. Right? Maybe it's, hey, I'm going to go work for Amazon. Maybe I'm going to go work for, a health and wellness company or somebody that needs me right now. And hey, you never know. You may find something that you absolutely love that'll open up, a completely new, career, channel for you. So there's so many things out there. But let's get tactical here. And I think that, first and foremost, I want to talk about recruiter outreach. And I'm going to give my point of view in a little bit because I've been receiving so many resumes and I put myself out there. I do have a couple of open jobs available, but I'm also very open and vocal on the platform. So people are coming towards me. But what is your approach that you advise on how folks should reach out to recruiters?
So I actually usually advise people reach out to hiring managers or people on the team just because recruiters get so many messages. But if it was directly to a recruiter, you need to come in knowing exactly what you're asking them about, right? Or tell them exactly the value you can add to the team, what role you're going after, and make sure you're really matching to what the job description is saying.
Yeah, I mean that. Yeah, that's an interesting one too. So at a very high level, I just want to say, like, us good recruiters, we have extreme empathy out there. First of all, there are so many recruiters that have lost their jobs, first and foremost, right? So it's tough out there. Like everyone, like we are not immune to this. We are the front. We are literally in most companies, we're the first ones to go. If a company's not hiring, they are gonna, let go of that recruitment staff, which is really tough. The good companies understand that we are going to come out of this, and they do keep the recruiters on to develop those relationships and keep them going. But one thing that personally, like I wish I could help every single person that reaches out to me, but I can't. It's a volume game. I also have work that I'm doing. I have my own stuff. But you kind of hit the nail on the head. Try to do a little bit of research on what that recruiter focuses on, what companies they work for, and just don't just blindly reach out to them, right? Be very specific. Be very specific. I've received emails and DMs saying, "Hey, Adam, could you take a look at my resume? I see that you have open jobs." That's not the best approach. Be specific and be conscious of my time also, right? But, "Hey, Adam, I see you cover digital marketing roles. I see you're working with X, Y, and Z company. I'm interested in this role. Here's why. Here's my resume." Or, "Hey, listen, I know I may not be the exact fit for it, but like, do you have other things like directly related to that?" Like, be relevant, But in the same breath, also, like if someone says to me, "Hey, Adam, I know that you're not a finance recruiter, but do you know anyone who is a finance recruiter?" Instead of just blindly sending me a message.
Right. I think that this is actually a really good lesson in general of when you're asking for help. Absolutely, asking for help is so important right now. Do ask for help, but you need to ask for specific help. You need to say, "I'm looking for customer success roles for software as a service companies," or not, "I'm looking for creative and people facing roles in innovative industries." No, like we don't know what that means for anyone. That means anyone in your network. That means
Yep.
anyone who is helping you as a recruiter. That means anyone working at different companies. So just be specific about what your ask is, and you will much more likely get what you need.
Yeah, and it puts us in a tough position too. It puts us recruiters in a tough position because we want to respond in kind and we want to respond politely too. But when you don't give us anything to work with, and when you're asking me to do something, when you're asking me to take a look at my resume without giving me any upfront context, you're not being conscious of my time. And I think the more information you could put up front, the better. And just be mindful of the person on the other side. And you're absolutely spot on that this applies in any time, not just now in the time of, the crisis. So let's talk about LinkedIn profiles for a little bit. Somebody had a question, in our promotion saying, in your LinkedIn profile, should you be putting looking for work, open to opportunities, God forbid, unemployed, not working? Like, what should somebody put in there, or what should they not put on there?
Yeah. So you're a recruiter.
I am.
Who do you reach out to? Do you reach out to if someone matches a role, do you wait to see if something on their profile indicates they're open, or do you just reach out to them anyways?
That's a great question. So I do reach out to them. I reach out based on skill set. I don't reach out if someone's unemployed or not.
So okay, so that's I would say every recruiter I've ever talked to has had the same answer, and because LinkedIn did a survey a few years ago and found that about 80% of professionals are open to new opportunities at any given time. That doesn't mean that they're
Yep.
unemployed or they're actively looking, but they're just simply open. And
They're called passive candidates.
Right. They're passive and they're just like, yeah, I would look at a good opportunity if it came my way. And we know that. So we reach out to 100% of people who we feel are a good fit. And so putting open to new opportunities is, first of all, saying that you're basically like 80% of people which makes you not stand out at all. Second of all, it is talking about what you want, not what the value you can add to the company. So you're using a really like important space on your headline instead of saying what skills you bring to the table. You're saying what you want, and it's also it kind of comes off as you're maybe not as sought after, which can often ding you.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a little bit. So in a normal times, I don't know if we'll ever remember normal times again, and I guess we're gonna have a new normal coming out of this. But generally speaking, and I'm speaking on generally on behalf of recruiters out there, most companies want to hire folks, especially if we're sourcing them, who are currently employed. And unfortunately, like I hate to say it, I mean, it's a stigma that's out there. Not to say there's so many good people that have lost their jobs for so many good reasons. I've been in that boat before, but no one is paying a outside contingency recruiter to hire somebody to look for people out of work. That's not happening, right? And second of all, we prefer people who are currently employed in their jobs, who are happy in their jobs, who may not be looking for good opportunities. It's a tough one. When recruiters see open, it's a stigma on there. I recommend just leaving it off and letting us find you, right? Or you reaching out to us. It's a tough one, man, because we want to be empathetic. We want to be open. But at the same time, there is a stigma there when people have not working. It's a tough one. It really is. I'm calling it how I see it. I'm just telling you, it may not be what people want to hear, but I'm telling you like what's happening right now.
It's just the truth. And I think recruiters are actually the ones who are much more open-minded about it. But when you pass that profile along to the hiring manager and the hiring manager sees it and goes, oh, they like, are they aren't employed. Oh, then starts kind of getting their mind moving. And it's just, it's not great.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in here. We have a ton of people joining us across LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. Actually, my Facebook's not working. We'll get to that situation in another time here. I'm joined by Madeline Mann, and it is sometime in April. I think it's early April. I think it's the 6th of April. Again, we made it through. We're talking all things recruiting, HR, talent acquisition in the age of the crisis, which is certainly scary. So let's talk a little bit about how candidates could differentiate on LinkedIn. And I think it's an incredible opportunity when people do have some bandwidth to think about how they're branding themselves. And one thing that I have been urging a lot of people is thought leadership. If you've been, in your industry, it could be one day, it could be 100 years, it doesn't matter. You know something and you have a point of view. Now's an incredible opportunity to create content. It could be a long form article, it could be video, it could be short form, it could be interviewing. It's so easy to create. I'm not even talking about like a fully polished podcast because that takes a lot of work. But you could record a StreamYard or a Zoom call and repurpose it as video content on LinkedIn. What are your thoughts around thought leadership and how candidates can really put themselves out there right now? So when the floodgates do open back up, because they will, and we have to be optimistic, how could they be not starting from the starting line, but be halfway towards the finish line?
Yes. So one thing you should know is that we Google you, we look at your social media, we care because we care about who you are as a person. And if you do have articles, blog posts about how you've been analyzing this product, and maybe you're a product manager and how you're really interested in these innovative products, that shows passion, that shows that you are up on your industry, and we like that. Another way you can do it is similar. I want to kind of build off of your idea around doing interviews is creating content is a great way to network. So let's go off of the product manager example still. So let's say I'm trying to get a job into my top 20 companies or 10 companies to be a product manager. Maybe I go to people at those companies and say, hey, I'm doing a blog post of the top tips from product managers of how to break into the career or something like that. It doesn't really matter the topic. And then I'm like, I'm going to feature you in this blog post. Can I ask you a few questions? And now that person is getting personal branding because you're featuring them, you're promoting them,
100%.
And you're also building that relationship. So then you send them the blog post and you be like, hey, it's out. Like, thanks so much for being a part of it. And now you've already started this more authentic relationship where when a role does come up or something like that, it feels less forced of you just cold emailing them.
100%. I mean, I talk about it a lot with my podcast too. My podcast is my primary business development driver. I have such a better opportunity to ask a potential client to come on my show for an hour versus cold emailing them. And it's been an incredible source of biz dev for me. So if you apply that same logic to reaching out to a company, maybe it's a director of product marketing at a company, right? And you say, hey, Sue, hey, I'm sorry, what would your approach be to that introductory email?
I would say something, I would show that I'd researched that person. So I'd say, I saw that you have a career, you went from this company to this company, and it's interesting because your background actually started in this realm, which is totally different. And so I thought you'd be perfect to feature in my article about, building a career in product management with an unconventional background or something like that. And just be like, would you be open to just answering a few questions on a 15-minute call or something? And it's just short, it's sweet. And it's simple as that.
It really is. And I think a lot of people are being extra generous with their time now. They know that people are in a tough boat. So let's take a question from the audience here. This comes from Nabaha Khan, and she's asking, can you kindly suggest how to find a particular recruiter in an organization through LinkedIn? As many organizations have multiple HR folks, how do we know which one to contact for a specific job?
Okay, so I would say, again, as I said earlier, I don't think you should contact the recruiter. I think you should try to find the hiring manager. I think you should search on LinkedIn, and based on the title of the role you're going after, search for the keywords of that role and see who might have a title above that. And I even sometimes reach out to the person who might also be the coworker. So those people are generally have more have less like volume of messages coming in, and if it's, they can often either refer you into the role or pass you along to HR. That's what I recommend. What would you say, Adam?
That's an interesting one. You know, LinkedIn, and I think even at the basic level, you don't have to have a premium account. There's certain search features there too. I think there's pros and cons to reaching out to a hiring manager versus a recruiter. And it all comes down to your messaging and your intent, how to get on their radar. I think that there's some recruiters who are open to it, right? And they appreciate that effort. And it really comes down to a personal preference. I'm okay if a candidate reaches out to me and they say they applied, they figured out that I'm the hiring manager. That's showing initiative in my eyes, right? That's showing that they're taking the extra step of they care. Now, the hiring manager is a little bit different. I think each hiring manager is a little bit sensitive one way or another. Some of them, again, could be open to it. And it all comes down to that initial message. Whatever you do, do not just blindly hit connect. Do not do that. Do not be tempted to just hit connect. Personalize that message and add intention behind it. I want to go back a little bit. My buddy Adam Sinkus, who's been on the show before, and he loved that you mentioned Google and that recruiters Google your names. We do. I absolutely do. I definitely checked out not just LinkedIn, but other ways as well. And he said he's been focusing on building his own SEO value for his name, and he shows up consistently on the first 4 pages when you Google his name. Now, that's not for everybody to do, right? That's not the easiest thing to do, but you can start to do that if you pepper your name on LinkedIn, on other platforms as well. So it is being populated in that. That's not my technical area of expertise. Do you have any insider advice on that?
I think that almost always your LinkedIn profile is maybe the top link, maybe one of the top 3 links. So I think if you feel like you're not very good at SEO, just do a really good job on your LinkedIn profile, because LinkedIn already has such great ranking that you just want to hit that up. But then, yeah, personal websites, having a Medium blog, something like that, where it's also another one of those recognizable websites that'll pop up. Your Twitter usually pops up, and that can be a scary place if you have some weird ideas. So watch out for that.
So yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. Social media auditing. Mm-hmm. It's a tough one. I mean, I don't creep people on Facebook. I don't go that deep.
No.
You know, I pretty much stick to LinkedIn. Occasionally I'll do a quick Insta search, but you know what? You can't always judge people on that. Like, that's their personal pages. I mean, yes and no, right? Like, listen, because you don't, again, that's your personal stuff too. But if you feel that somewhere in your past you have maybe crossed a line somewhere, just be mindful of that. Right, because I've seen it come back to hurt people. Now, I want to go back to resumes also here. If people have lost their jobs, how should they address it on a resume, and how should they address it on a cover letter?
So I would say that I usually write why I lost the job. So it might be something like, the dates of the job, and then layoffs of 70%, left due to layoffs of 70% of the staff, or something, just like next to it, like maybe right under the like the title or something, like kind of in italicized or something like that, where I'm just explaining, I got hit up by the coronavirus. Like I was impacted by it. And then it's just a line there, and then they can move on, right? Because whenever anyone reads a resume, they just kind of make up a story if there isn't a story already there. So just put little details in there. Don't make it verbose, just a quick, or, took some time to take care of kids during coronavirus, since they had to stay at home or something, whatever that is. And then on a cover letter, I think if you've explained it on your resume, it depends on how deep the story is, that I might go to the cover letter. If it's just a layoff, which is so common right now, I think a line on the resume, since people are guaranteed to read the resume, but maybe not guaranteed to read the cover letter, it's more important to get on the resume. Yeah,
and you and I talked about this on our podcast, which is coming out this Friday. Quick little promo there. Episode, I think 65. No, 60. 6. Because 65 was Enrico Rubio, who I pumped up before. Okay, anyway, I digress on that. But we talk about that and some other real nuanced pieces on the resume. But Herb made a good point too. He just said keep it simple, like laid off due to COVID-19, laid off due to, and I think that we all get it.
Yep.
Now, on a call, if I'm talking to a candidate, I'm still going to dig a little bit deeper, because if I'm looking at their resumes and they've had a lot of short stints, some companies may be able to keep people, right, who are good, and they may be forced to lay off other people, right? So you got to still understand why someone has been laid off.
Right. I think that's when you either choose to volunteer or have to wait until that question is asked about the size of the layoff. So if your layoff was large, I will, like I said, if you said on the resume,
like
70% of the employees were laid off. Okay, that to me as someone hiring says, this was not like a selective, you're staying, you're going, like, I mean,
right. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
Right. But layoff that is a small percent would probe more questions.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard right now. It's hard, but let me tell you something. There are jobs out there. There's still companies that are hiring, because some companies are fully remote, and some companies in different industries are pumping up right now. And I think it really comes down to thinking deep inside. So I want to touch on something that you and I spoke about again during the podcast, is identifying your skills and where else they could apply. Is there like an exercise? Is there a technique that you guide candidates on in this particular time to pivot? Right? Like, what are those steps that you need to take to say, hey, listen, I work in XYZ industry. That industry has been decimated and they're not hiring right now. I need to think outside the box, but what else could I do? What else am I good at? What else do I think I might be interested in?
Right. I always say play to your strengths, not your passions. So really looking to the things that you're really good at. And so really noticing those things. And then when you have an idea of maybe how those skills could potentially coalesce in some sort of role, you need to contact people who are in those jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Because what a lot of people do usually is like, then they're like, all right, I want that job. I'm going to start getting all these certifications. That's going to be my move. And certifications can be good, but you need to figure out if that certification is valuable.
Yeah. Is it worthwhile? Is it worth getting it?
Don't waste your time on education when you should be getting relationships and experience. And so, but education can be good too, but the other two are you should be spending more time on. And so really speaking to those people, being like, hey, here's my resume. What would you need to see on it to hire me for a role similar to yours? Not asking for a job, just asking, what would you need to see on here? And just getting that feedback and then building those skills. It's tough. A lot of people, this is people's least favorite part, is that you have to start building those skills in one way or another. So maybe you
got to start somewhere.
Right. You kind of help your uncle with, his online presence. And you're like, that's experience. It is experience. Like, even if you're not getting paid for it, even if it is a relative, like, just really make sure that you are building like a portfolio of work.
Yeah, that's absolutely tremendous. Now's the time for growth if you can. And it's hard because, you got to make money and put food on the table. Let's talk. Let's see. We have a couple of questions here. Hold on. I'm getting some reverb. Give me 1 second here. All right, let's try that. Adam Sinkus is asking, what are your thoughts on the trap of the personal brand experts on the platform? Do you think that there's a lot of people out there that are trying to take advantage of the situation?
Do I think, okay, wait, can you say the question again?
Yeah, he's asking, the trap of personal branding experts on the platform, where, people are trying to pitch their courses more than ever. People are trying to take advantage of people who may be desperate and out of work.
I think that people need to step up in this time and really be giving lots of content, lots of information. Though at the same time, I do think if they have more valuable information to give and it's behind a paywall, I think, there is a, I don't know, like, people got to eat, like, I think everyone needs to find their job. Everyone needs to do work. So then don't invest in it. Right. Like, if you don't want that, then don't pay for it. But I think that, give value and just, also don't just kind of like, I don't think that people should feel entitled that everyone does everything for free.
Yeah, and it's an interesting one too, because I've been thinking about it too. Like there's a certain balance between, hey, listen, I still have a business and I'm going to charge for my services because this is what I do. This is what I'm an expert in, and we have to put food on our table. So if I have a service and offering that you were paying for beforehand, you're still going to be paying for it now. Maybe I have some kind of value add. Maybe I have some kind of discount on it to help people out right now. But don't look down on people. Don't always look down on people that are trying to make money right now. Now there's a different side of it too. I've been getting tons of spam from people that are not mindful of their tone. They're completely tone deaf in their messaging, and people taking advantage of the situation. And that's something completely different. Let's see what other questions we have out here. Dr. Nelson Evangelista is asking what company industries are hiring, what companies and industries are hiring. And I think that it's relatively easy to take a look at open jobs on LinkedIn, open jobs on Glassdoor, Indeed, and do some searches. It's all out there. It's really not that hard. Put in a few minutes of time and you'll see plenty of opportunities, right?
Absolutely. Yep. Filter by recently posted jobs and you can see who's very active right now.
Yeah. And some companies, I'll be honest, some companies are just pipelining and they might not call it out there. So they may keep jobs open. They may not have taken them down yet either. That's another thing too, realistically. A lot of companies, I'll call it what it is. They're either lazy or they don't have somebody kind of monitoring the job boards to take jobs down. So just be mindful of that. And also, it goes back to what we're talking about with empathy and understanding patients, that some companies may be extra slow to reply. Even if a recruiter engages you from your application, just be mindful that, 99% of the time they're working remote and maybe it's a little bit harder to get a follow-up. They're waiting on an email. They're waiting on a phone call from a hiring manager to make a decision to review a resume, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, it's not, foolproof, but I definitely think that, yeah, it's usually looking at some of the recent posts can be good.
Yeah, that's definitely good. What do you like? What's your just generally speaking, are people being positive or people trying to take use this opportunity to revamp their resumes, to focus on their career search, to embrace a pivot? What are you seeing out there? What are you feeling? What are you guiding your clients and customers?
So I think that I definitely believe this is skewed, but the number of testimonials and success stories I've been getting in the past probably 2 to 3 weeks has been almost on par with the number I get normally. Now, I do think that people are especially excited to tell me because this is such a trying time. So yeah. I don't think that number is probably skewed higher than what it would if I was just do one-to-one. But the bottom line is the people who are fired up, the people who are like, I'm going to get my resume into shape. I'm going to my LinkedIn. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to stand out. I'm going to kick ass. Those people are still getting jobs. Now, it is harder. It's more competitive, but it's been really cool. I released these, I think you saw them, these email templates of how to follow up.
Yeah, I want to talk about those.
Yeah. And the amount of success stories where they literally said, I sent these and then I got the job. It's been blowing my mind. And it's just awesome. Because you give people a tool to be compassionate and to be proactive in their job search. And suddenly companies are like, yeah, we want this person over these other people because this person really wants this and is really thinking about it from our perspective.
I want to give a quick shout out to my man, Fred Sill, who just joined on here. Now, Fred Sill, I'm just going to tell you something about Fred Sill. Fred Sill gave me my first break in recruiting. Fred Sill, when I pivoted into recruiting, Fred, what's up, my man, Freddie Sill? You know how much I love you. When I pivoted from marketing and advertising into recruiting, he's somebody that I knew. He was actually a recruiter who recruited me when I was working in digital marketing and media. And he said, you know what, man? I think you'll be good at this thing. I think you'll be good at recruiting. And he gave me my first break. So Fred, I appreciate you. I hope you're well and safe there. So thank you, Fred. So I want to get back to talking about your templates. And I think that's important too. And you hit on a key point because a lot of people may have a problem articulating and putting words into copy when emailing folks about their career search and job opportunities these days. So give us a little sneak preview and, we'll certainly talk about where people could find that. But how do you craft the right message to be mindful during this time?
So what you need to do is, this is a little bit different than how I would follow up outside of the coronavirus. So you respond with interest, but also without expecting a response. This is the key, is that you show that you're interested and then you're like, hey, I know that things are are really confusing right now and they're really tough. I'm not really expecting a response. Like by welcoming that and just showing that you understand and not pushing forward, but still articulating why you are so interested and that you are pursuing that company, that is what's going to make or break this follow-up.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough too. I mean, I'm on the other side of that, and I'm still reaching out to candidates, and I've seen response rates completely drop, completely plummet. And it's tough because of a couple things. One, anybody who has a job, they're less inclined, obviously, to want to move to a new job during this time. If you're in a stable and secure job right now, why the hell would you want to leave a job? Right? I mean, that's number one. And two, I have to be mindful of how I message people. I don't know if they've been personally affected in any way whatsoever. I don't know if they're going to take offense to my outreach. Right? Is someone going to get offended at me? So I have to be very tactful in how how I kind of go about that as well. And I think just generally speaking, we all have to just take a step back and take a deep breath and just think about the recipient on the other side. Right. And not being pushy. But how hard is it if you're out of work and you're stressing out about how am I going to put food on the table? I mean, how do you manage that?
Yeah, it's really tough. And I think the best way to do it is, I think you're right, is to take a breath, is to put yourself in the other person's shoes, and also think about, and I know this is tough when you're like, where is my next paycheck going to come from? It's just like thinking about what value can I add to the world? Like, how could I help this person in a little way? And how can that then come back to me? And I know it's really, really tough to do because you just want to be like, just give me a job, help me. But really thinking about, okay, like, coming at things with different value. I've been really reaching out to companies of people who I know, who the companies don't really have HR departments, and I've helped them with some of their like policies and some of their procedures during this time, not for money or anything, but just because I was like, I should probably just like help during this time. So maybe
Absolutely.
you feel like that. And then they go, oh, wow, this person, I'm not trying to get a job with them, but maybe if I was, like, that would be kind of a cool thing for them to be like, oh, wow, okay, maybe if we do hire someone in HR, that should be her or something like that.
And that's a great transition. I'm going to bring in my next guest, Jill Katz, in a moment. Let's bring Jill on board. Do you know Jill Katz?
No.
Hi, Jill. Jill, Madeline, Jill. Welcome.
Hi, Madeline. How are you? Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Jill, Madeline is in our world of that humans first approach. She gets it. She adds value to everybody, and she hit on something pretty interesting too. Is offering to help, and that's not necessarily free, but how do you add value? In this world right now, how could you be adding value to organizations and find opportunities? Not so much to work for free, but to get your name out there. And I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with that, Madeline. Awesome. Madeline, I appreciate you and your time. Where can folks find you? Where can they connect with you?
So find me on LinkedIn/in/Madeline Mann. Also MadelineMann.com. Find me there as well.
That's awesome. Madeline, thank you so much for joining me. I'll connect everybody to you. Take care and stay safe out there.
Thanks. You too.
Great. Oh, Jill, I lost you. I got Jill back. Jill's back on there now. Hey, Jill, do you have your speakers on, or do you have LinkedIn loaded? Because I'm getting a feed on that. Like, are you watching the feed somewhere else? No? All right, cool.
Not that I'm aware of. Is there something you want me to turn off somewhere else?
No, I think we're good. I think I fixed the problem here on my end. This whole streaming thing is crazy. So many people are out there. They're figuring out this streaming thing. Jill Katz, welcome. How you doing? Good morning.
How are you? I'm hanging in there. I'm hanging in there, Adam. It's a different world.
It's a different, and it's so crazy because it was literally like hitting a brick wall. I don't know about you. I was on such a high and I was on a rocket ship in 2019 into 2020, and we just hit a wall. So many of us just hit a wall, and I think the mindset piece is what's the hardest right now. What are you doing to stay strong personally for you and your family?
You know what? Every day is a different day, and every day is a journey. And I think that as a person and as a parent, every single day we sort of ask ourselves the same question. But what's different in the world of COVID is that we need to be more honest with ourselves. And I don't know a single person who hasn't had their breaking moment. As a matter of fact, what's interesting is I had a meeting booked right before this conversation with a very trusted colleague who's also become a very good friend. And we put the time on the calendar, and I got a note from that person today. And the note said, I'm not going to be able to talk today. I woke up crying. And you know what? I don't think I've ever gotten a note like that before from a colleague, and I completely understand that. And those are the kinds of notes that we need to be able to send and receive in today's world and just accept. Because you know what, Adam? I don't know that I've ever said this on a podcast before, and I've certainly done my share of podcasts, but I had my cry moment this weekend. And so I think what I'm doing with my family to get through this is try to be as honest and authentic
Absolutely.
and real as I possibly can, so that my kids and my husband and my parents and my brother and everybody knows that I am real, and I have moments where I can crack tasteless jokes.
Of
And
course.
and I have plenty of them. And then there are also moments that I have curled up in a ball, and days that I haven't taken off my pajamas, and
that's okay.
I've just wept.
And that's okay, because this is so new to everybody. And the crazy thing is, Jill, for the first time, everybody on this planet is in the same boat. We are all in the same boat. And it's hopefully, and I'm praying that this is going to unify us and all those good things like world peace and pollution ending and all that. And I have a feeling that there are going to be a lot of advances in that. And that's one of the silver linings. But we have to deal with the day. We have to deal with day in and day out. And I look at that calendar, and it's hard to envision the end, but it's going to end at some point. And I think that's what it has to. And that's what pulls me through. But yes, I mean, I've had my first big crack moment was literally on day one of when my kid was home from school, my wife was home for work, and it kind of all hit like a ton of bricks that we're all in the same house and we have to figure it out. And that's when reality hit. And then I had another breakdown. It was yesterday morning. I was watching our governor do his daily briefing, Governor Cuomo in New York here, and he started to show the numbers. And I'm like, holy crap. I'm like, that's, you can't even imagine. You can't even imagine that kind of impact and tragedy and human loss on a scale in our own city, right? And people that are being affected. And I lost it. I sat at the kitchen table and I put my head down and I cried. I was just upset for my fellow New Yorkers and for so many people that are affected. And it's okay to have those moments. And that's inside. You have to be okay with that.
Well, the thing is, you know, we talk so much about leadership, and I've now been in this business for 22 years, which is amazing for someone that's only 26, right?
You look great, Jill.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
I'm glad you got yourself out of the maybe it's pajamas down. Maybe it's pajamas from the everyone has their Zoom attire, right? Pajamas down, business up front.
I joked about that actually. I mean, you know, how often do we shower now? Maybe that's the silver lining, that maybe I would just put on business attire here and keep on my puppy pajamas at the bottom. But you know, I unfortunately attended my first Zoom funeral last week.
How was that? If you don't mind sharing a little bit.
It was excruciating.
I'm so sorry.
And the worst part is I attended it with my son, who is 10. And we were at the Zoom funeral for the father of one of my son's friends. And that was one of my first huge breaks, Adam. I didn't have the words, and to think of all the things that have changed in our lives, all the things that we're used to doing together as people, and all the things that we take for granted, to be snuggled up in my son's bed with my son, my laptop open on my lap, my son in my arms, looking at a Zoom screen. a woman my age sitting in her den on the floor. She was sitting on the floor, her 2 kids next to her, alone. She was one of the tiny squares on the Zoom screen, and there were 77 people. It was a Shiva, and one by one, people were speaking. And I thought, she's sitting by herself as people are talking about her husband, who was 48 or 50 years old. And this is the bottom. This is the bottom.
And how do you explain to your son? I mean, how old's your son? He's in his teens, I believe.
He's 10. My son is 10.
10. I mean, that's a formative age where they know what's happening. My 8-year-old daughter, she knows what's happening, and it's scary for them because this is one of their friends' parents who are same age as you guys, and it could happen to any of us. And how do we be truthful with our kids and open with them, but also protect them as mama and papa bear?
We are in a moment right now where candor, courage, and care has never been more important. And I've been talking about it now for 2 years, and I've never wanted to have an I told you so moment like this. Never. But people need empathy and communication and a level of honesty and transparency now in order to get through every day. Now it's not about getting through a bad week at work. Now it's not about dealing with your boss who's a jerk. Now
Every day.
It's not about maybe your quarter will come in. It's literally in some cases about whether or not someone you love is going to wake up tomorrow morning. And you said it earlier, Adam, it is the grand equalizer. It doesn't matter how old you are.
Rich, poor, young, old, doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. You could have all the money in the world. COVID doesn't care.
Look at Tom Hanks, the British Prime Minister. I mean, everyone is affected, and I think it's a little too late of a wake up call. I mean, I don't want to get into that kind of conversation there, but like, I think it's showing that everybody is equal and everyone's susceptible. And the other piece too is, I mean, people are being affected physically. People are being affected mentally. I mean, we're not even talking about the mental health toll coming out of this. We're not even talking about the domestic abuse. I mean, how many people right now are trapped with their villains? How many people who don't have the socioeconomic means are trapped in small, insufficient households with parents that can't work, that are out of work, that are taking out frustration on them? I mean, it's absolutely mind-boggling, and it's hard to. Let me say this the right way. We need to be mindful as parents and right now it's holding down the fort. Right now, no one could blame you for just taking care of yourself and your family, but you also have to try to find a little bit of time to think about others, to take care of others right now. And it's hard to wrap your head around that. What else is happening out there in the universe? It's a lot.
So when I think about, so many of us are thinking, what can I do? What can I do for other people and stay safe? Because many of us think about going out and feeding meals to other people, and that might not be safe. And many of us think about going out and taking care of the sick, and that might not be safe. And many of us think about donating food or clothing or toys or books, and that might not be safe. And so there are so many things that we're used to doing or thinking of doing that might not be okay to do. And so you're
hard.
Difficult situation. And what we all can do that is safe but is challenging is lean further into empathy and communication. And what's
absolutely
what's interesting about it is it is simple, but it is not easy. It's not easy. It's actually very hard.
Conversations are difficult these days. You don't know where people stand, but it's not as simple as just saying, "Hey, how are you?" It's really digging deeper. And in the past, we used to say, "Let's have that, hey, how are you?" as far as mental health. Now it's mental health across everybody, not just your friends and family who maybe have shown signs or maybe have become like more introverted and they're not as open as they are, because everybody's in that boat right now. So I think we need to apply the same principles and being conscious of our close. That's how we can help, right? Let's help people closest to us, making sure that they are okay.
Yes, it is. It's not an easy thing to do. And for many people, it's actually quite uncomfortable. People question whether or not they're qualified to have these conversations. People question whether or not it's their place. People are worried that if someone tells them they're not okay, they don't know
what to do.
They don't know what to do. And so what we're finding now is a lot of people are still trying to do what we call business as usual.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. Let's pivot this conversation into business, courage, candor, and care.
Yes.
Right, and empathy.
So,
we'll put an E on. We'll put an E on there too. A big E on this one.
So, business as usual.
Never. No, not right now.
There's no such thing. There isn't. The word usual is over. Usual. We are now at the unusual. We are in the official unusual. And so anyone that is attempting to do business as usual is tone deaf and is missing the point and is ultimately going to pay the price later.
Right.
And so this is the moment, if there ever were one, where candor, courage, and care is so desperately needed. And so, tip number one, there is no conversation, there is no meeting that should start with business first. It's not allowed.
No. You got to check in on your coworkers and your employees 100%.
That's right. And what's interesting is, I start all of my meetings with how are you? And most people, we're just programmed to say, I'm okay, I'm fine, how are you? But the fact is, we're not fine. No one is fine.
No one
is fine.
We may show it here, but when this call is over, you and I can be completely different.
We're not fine. And so how do you get to what is really happening for people? Because it is now true that not one person is outside of the evil of the COVID
No one's immune.
virus. So in some way, the person you're working with, talking with, is hurting. That person knows someone who is sick. That person is suffering some kind of economic trouble.
Everyone.
Or has a friend that is. You're looking at me right now. I look like I'm doing great, but you might not know that 2 people I know passed away this week. You might not know that my husband's position was impacted by COVID. You might not know that I have 2 friends that lost their job. You might not know. And I could go on and on and on. And I don't know what happened to you, Adam, until I ask you. And you might not just come right out and offer it to me, because that's just not how we socially interact.
It's not normal. It's not normal. I want to talk a little bit about businesses right now, and it's interesting too, because I had this conversation with Madeline. It's I got to say this the right way. It's okay for business to continue. It's okay for people to sell, but they have to be very mindful and not be tone deaf, because we do need this economy to continue. We do need companies to continue to hire. That's what we need. So there has to be a balance there, and it's so difficult because it's completely uncharted waters. And it comes down to leadership. How are you guiding and consulting your your clients and your employees to be mindful about still continuing their business?
Well, I think that you pointed out some of the most important pieces right there, which is we all want our economy to pick back up. The waterfall effect of what's happening here is terrifying to everyone. There isn't a business There isn't an occupation, a discipline, an industry that isn't touched by this. And the only way for us to recover is for everyone to ultimately get back to work, get back to health, get back to mental health. And so, yes, wherever there are opportunities to support one another's businesses, one another's health, one another's mental health, support. Just make sure you're supporting things in the right way, from the right perspective, and with the right approach. And so things that I'm talking to people about are, how do you approach things always from a people first perspective? Are you entering your conversations by first asking how people are, what you can do to help those people, asking about that person and all the people around them, asking about their teams and how their team and business has been impacted? I personally like to think about, look for, acknowledge, and support businesses that have put themselves out there to help others. We know about big businesses that have a ton of money that have repurposed
Right.
the business model to help support COVID, right? But there are also many small businesses who aren't getting the PR.
Yeah, the moms and pops
that are doing extraordinary things. I have a dear close friend who owns a factory, and he's not LVMH or Amazon or any of those companies, and he's using every dollar he has to make hospital gowns.
That's incredible.
And I think that is outstanding. And so those are the kinds of businesses that I would love to see us supporting. And I love that there are organizations that are trying to give out small grants to bring small businesses back to fruition. So, you know, my husband and I, we had a conversation this weekend about how we can save money because we've been financially impacted. And, you know, we talked about our lawnmower, you know, basic people, basic stuff. And we said, you know, should we have someone come and mow our lawn, or should we spring to buy a lawnmower and get our kids out there to mow the lawn?
Teachable moments.
Right? These are important moments. And, you know, the man who owns the lawn mowing company, we don't want to see him and other local businesses go out of business. And so maybe there is, that's right,
a balance.
Maybe there's a balance. So maybe we call him and say, we can't afford you anymore, but maybe there is a hybrid, and maybe you can come once a month. And maybe if everyone
do the heavy lifting.
And so we do want to see our economy go back. We do want our businesses to thrive. We do want people to talk about business, but anyone that is talking about business in a vacuum without thinking about it as a group of human beings that are trying to support communities and their finances to get their lives back in order.
Yeah. So let's shift a little bit and talk about, you know, corporate HR, something that you are an expert in too. And I think there's two sides of this. One, let's talk about the inside of, I mean, and Claude Silver is our shining light on this one. Is how do you manage your employees working from home, their emotions, having to still handle their workload, be conscious of their jobs, trying to homeschool 3 kids, dealing with a husband who's out of work. I mean, how does an HR discipline get their head around this right now?
Well, the good news, if there is any, is that every single person is dealing with this right now. So if you had called companies 4 weeks ago and talked about this, they would have thought, oh, that's crazy. We're not going to do that. We're not going to put ourselves in that kind of a situation. Or
no way.
Our business is too complex for that. We're too sophisticated to.
There's no way everybody could work from home. That's impossible.
That's right.
We need people here. People got to be here for the clients.
And I was on a podcast early last week talking about this, that I had the fortune of doing a talk on remote work in the fall of 2019. And I was talking about how important I thought it was going to be for organizations to get their heads around it, because I was predicting that in the next 5 years, it was going to be really critical.
Not 5 weeks. Not 5 weeks.
I didn't realize it was going to be 5 months. But I was giving all kinds of statistics around the benefits of remote work and what companies would need to do to get prepared for it. Now the preparation piece is irrelevant.
It's every day you got to figure it out, like your technology, your quiet time, your internet connections. And
Right.
here's the other piece too. There's a big difference, Jill, between working from home normally, which I do and you do, and there's a big difference from working from home with your kids home, when your kids need to be homeschooled, with figuring out childcare. That's a whole other ball game that companies got to deal with.
That's right. And so, well, a couple of things is, for me, the good fortune is I've had the opportunity to pivot my business. I'm now offering 2 virtual programs for companies to help them around these exact issues. So I am now offering one program that is around virtual meetings and virtual work. It's a
Love it.
50-minute virtual learning program for organizations that actually need help with how to go virtual, how to be effective with virtual meetings, what you need to do, what some of the important tips are, as well as leading teams, communicating with teams in this crisis of a change. And those programs are very affordable in a time when nothing has been harder than budget, but it is so critical to reach out and connect with people while we are separate. And I can tell you, where teams are able to and willing to invest in these types of programs, it is really resonating with organizations that are making those types of moves. And that's some of the stuff that I see HR teams doing that is important. But where they're not able to bring in outside help, which most companies are not.
I mean, resources are tight. I mean, especially when you're talking about where to invest money, it's about saving employees' jobs.
So what they really need to do is, this is the moment where the human resources, people, talent function, what we always have done best is know our team members, build relationships, and come to understand what each employee needs and what each employee is dealing with at home. And if it means shifting work hours, if it means
being more flexible.
That's right. All we need from our employees and all we ever needed were business results. And so yesterday, by the way, was Sunday. Yesterday I was on.
Yeah, I forget what it's any day. Yeah.
Yeah. But Sunday I was on a call with a client, and there were 4 of us on the call. And this particular client said that, he has realized that as he's homeschooling his children, he finds that he's more productive from 1 to 9 p.m. And those hours he's now going to work. And you know what my feeling is on that? So what?
As long as you're getting it done.
Who cares?
Being as productive as possible. And I think companies are also understanding those KPIs, those metrics for whatever your job is. There's no quotas right now. There's no goals. Everyone is just trying to maintain and find that balance between keeping their family safe, secure, and sustained, and also being, a good, loyal employee and getting your work done. There's a balance there, and it's really, it's really tough. And then we talk about that with hiring too. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. I mean, 90% of my clients have froze or stopped hiring right now, or they furloughed, or they're letting people go, and it's decimated my industry. And I'm personally trying to figure out ways to pivot. I'm also doubling down on adding value by having amazing conversations with folks like yourself, so we can help as many people. And I urge everybody out there to try to find. I'm not going to say side hustles, but try to find ways to extend your value, and that could be business consulting with a friend or a colleague or someone in another industry for no money, just having conversations, because that'll also keep you sane. If you could take your mind off of things, that'll keep you sane, right? Like, find ways to be productive and sane.
We have to keep busy. We have to keep caring. We have to find ways to help and connect. Human beings need connection. So what's interesting is, in addition to not being healthy, in addition to not being able to earn a living and feel productive, one of the worst punishments that COVID has created for us is separation and isolation. We are all in our own prisons.
It's crazy.
And that may be one of the worst parts of the whole thing. And so one of the hashtags I've started is stay connected while apart. And I can't urge people enough. What you want to do is stay in your puppy pajamas and stay in your bed. And what you have to do is connect. And if that is as simple as making one phone call every day to a person you haven't spoken to in a year, fine. And if that is sitting on LinkedIn for 15 minutes every day and trying to connect with 3 new people who could be interested in you, fine. And if that's as much as joining the Assemble Network to meet 13 new colleagues that could turn into friends or even job leads, fantastic.
100%. Put yourself out there, and it's I've been wrapping my head around this too. I mean, you and I are surrounded by our families, but there's so many people out there who are by themselves right now. And it's one thing to go on a walk and see other people, but it's a much different thing when, nighttime comes or that first thing in the morning and you can't connect. And so many people, their work is their family. So many people, their work is their family, and they can't have that connection. So, just urge people to be mindful. So, Jill, I appreciate you so much. You know how much you mean to me and someone else out there. So I want to thank you first and foremost. But I want to end this show on a positive note. I want to talk about silver linings, and I'm going to ask you to tell me 2 silver linings for you, one personal and one professional.
Well, there's no doubt what my personal silver lining is. And personal is always what comes to mind for me first, Adam, which is I have a 13-and-a-half-year-old daughter going on, 25. So we're the same age.
Right. You guys are twins.
We're twins. And I have a 10-year-old son. And I don't know how or when I would ever have imagined a period of time where I would have had a month, which will probably be
2 months.
2 months or maybe even 3 months of uninterrupted time, dinner every single night together, walk in the evening, every day, all day.
It's incredible.
With my kids, and you don't even think about it until you have it. You don't think about what you don't have until you have it. And having this time with my children, I know that I'll never have it again. And the last time I had it was when they were infants.
When they were babies, yeah.
And I am so grateful for it. And it's beautiful. And it is such a silver lining. And I'll tell you something, this COVID time is awful and terrible and scary. And when it's over, I will miss them.
I'm hearing this a lot, Jill. I'm hearing the such positivity of families reconnected because, as kids get older, they socialize with their friends. They're glued to these things right here. And the stories that I'm hearing from our friends about the family time and the dinners together. And I'll speak even specifically about my wife. I mean, she's a corporate real estate attorney, a commercial real estate attorney. She usually works late, and she calls this a working vacation. She's so happy to have this time with her kids, and it's a silver lining, but that's not everybody. So it's okay to cherish those moments, but also be mindful that other people may not be going through the same thing. And that's a tough balance there.
I am so blessed, and personally, I feel so lucky. And I have also taken the time to be conscious of people in my life that aren't in the situation I'm in. And I have created a personal goal to be reaching out to people around me that aren't in that situation. And my professional silver lining has been that I started the Assemble Network, which is a virtual networking community, almost 2 years ago. And I started it by accident as a pilot experiment. And so I have actually been quite agile and comfortable using Zoom and working remotely and bringing communities of people together for quite some time. And so I've been really successful so far, knock wood, about pivoting a great deal of my business, certainly not all of it. And my business has been also devastated since I run programs offsite in person.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
But bringing more of my business online and bringing more people together using the Assemble network. So I just
Keep doing it.
I can keep doing it.
Keep doing it. And I know that there's a light at the end of this tunnel. And I know right now, I mean, just looking at the numbers and the news and everything, that we're in the shit right now. We're in it. Like, this is like the worst part, but we will come through. And it all comes down to staying positive and looking at those silver linings, protecting your fort, relying on your calluses, right? The calluses that you've built up, these inside calluses for all the crap that we've been through in life, all those tough times, all those hardships, all those downturns. That's what's going to get us through right now. And Dave Meltzer made this analogy, when you get on the airplane and the flight attendant says, in case of a sudden loss in cabin pressure, the oxygen mask is going to fall, put that mask on you first. And now I understand why, because you got to be your best self so you could be your best for everyone else in your family. And that's my mantra every single day, is be my best self so I can be the best to my family.
Well, Adam, I think you always are, and I think you get better and better and better. And it's
Thank you.
It's amazing to watch you. Your story is and has always been a story of someone that fights through the hard times and comes out on top. And so I think you should just keep telling your story, because you're inspiring people every time you start talking.
Thank you, Jill. I appreciate you so much. Where could folks find you? Where could they learn more? Where could they connect?
I am immensely findable. I'm
Not that hard.
I know it's terribly easy. I'm on LinkedIn, Jill Katz, Katz, and my website is HR Assemble.
Awesome. Jill, thank you so much for joining me today. Be safe. Take care. We'll certainly connect again soon. And everyone who's joined us today on the podcast, thank you so much. Tomorrow I'll be on with Kristen Sherry, founder of UMAP. We're going to be talking about how to position yourself, your resume. We're going to get pretty tactical. I think tactics are important as well. And then I am doing my Thursday Let's Be Happy Hour. I'm doing a new series called Thursday Let's Be Happy Hour. It kind of works, whatever. And I'm going to have a cocktail with people that mean a lot to me. It's going to be fun. We're going to have virtual cocktails and just check in on people and have some fun. So that's going to be a little bit more lighthearted and just trying new things. And I want everyone to experiment too. Try things. Now's the time to try stuff, right?
Awesome.
Jill Katz, thank you so much. And everyone listening, thank you for joining us on the podcast. Take care. We'll catch you tomorrow. Yes, Tuesday. Bye. Take care.
Bye. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you, Jill.